Hi, I'm going to introduce this chapter briefly and then we'll get started looking at some different articles. Americans have had some mixed feelings about alcohol and other drugs throughout their history. In general, the colonists regarded alcohol as one of God's greatest gifts to mankind. Our forebears believed that alcohol richly deserved its splendid name, water of life. Um, Drunkenness was punished, but drinking was generally considered to be one of life's pleasures. Yet by the 1900s, a growing temperance movement began urging its members to abstain from all alcoholic beverages. I know that most of you guys actually have read or heard about the time during the early 1900s when there was bootleggers because alcohol was illegal. But what you may not know is that until the beginning of the 1900s, opium and its derivatives were less offensive to Americans than smoking cigarettes or drinking. And now we can hardly imagine anyone using opium except people who are suffering from severe addictions. Eventually, though, opium did go the way of some of the other things of the time. And I'm sure that you guys were all aware that back in that same period of time, that Coke really did have cocaine in it. And yes, I'm talking about Coca-Cola. The ambivalence that Americans have had about drugs is based partly on the distinction between use, abuse, and addiction. And the abuse of drugs and alcohol, not the use, is what has created the problem that we have today. We define abuse as an improper use of alcohol and other drugs to a degree that the consequences are defined as detrimental to the user or to society. And addiction is simply a form of abuse. Addiction has been called a brain disease because of the continued abuse of the drug will actually cause a dependence on the drug. And I'm talking about a physiological dependence on the drug. And it causes them to have a compulsive need to use the drug. Not every case of abuse, though, involves addiction. A man may not be an alcoholic, but if he gets drunk and decides to drive and kill someone that you or I care about, that's still an abuse of alcohol. And a woman may not be hooked on LSD, but may just have an experience where someone talks her into trying it. She has a bad trip and commits suicide. Those are not necessarily addiction, but they are drug and alcohol abuse. What we're going to look at in this module, though, is the effects of these on users and the patterns of use among Americans today and the effects on the quality of their life. These multi-level factors are what create and perpetuate the problem, and that's what makes it a social problem instead of a personal problem. And we've talked briefly about the difference between personal problems and social problems. And we know that if this was just something that affected the one person and it was just something that they could control, then it might not be a social problem. It wouldn't affect society as a whole by the definition of social problems. I hope that you enjoy this module. And if you have any questions, remember that I truly am just an email or a phone call away. Thank you.